all you cool cats and kittens. It's Carole Baskin from Big Cat Rescue, and I wonder if you have had the same experience that I have. You work hard, like really hard, and you put everything that you have into that work. And then when you get home and you can finally try to slow all of the racket in your head, you turn on the TV and it's the news, and it's all bad news. And so you flip the channel and it's like one stupid sitcom after another, and you think, for crying out loud, if I watch that, my brain is just going to turn to mush. And then you flip over to some streaming channel and it's just bad acting that doesn't do the job in distracting you from all of the stuff that you don't want to think about until it's time to hit the road running again tomorrow. So imagine this instead. You kick off your flower crown, because you all wear them all day, right? And you put on your headset, and you are transported. You put on your headset, and you bring up a planet, and you think, today, I want to go to the Himalayas. It was a really hot day. It was hot in the office. It was hot in my car. I could see the steam coming up off of the pavement as I'm driving home. I want to feel cool and refreshed. And so you click the Himalayas, and then you're looking around, and there's a heat map that shows you where there's been activity in this area. And you look at that and you say, there it is, camera 47. That has something going on there. And you use your joystick and you fly over to camera 47, and oh my catness, it's a snow leopard. And shall we put the crown back on? No, we will not. It's a snow leopard, and she's raising her cubs right there in front of this 360, 3D, live, real-time, internet streaming camera that is coming straight to your headset. Now imagine you're watching this mother raising her cubs. She's bathing them. You're seeing this vast landscape, and you are feeling everything that it feels like to be right next to that cat. You're closer than you could ever be in any kind of a situation. In the wild, you would never see this cat up close. People have traveled to the Himalayas, some for a decade, before they got their first glimpse of a snow leopard so freaking far away that they could hardly tell it was a snow leopard. They had to have like one of those camera lenses that was about this big to even see the cat. And here you are right there in the den site with this mom and these cute little cubs that are playing and having the best time of their lives because they're not being encroached upon by people. This is where you learn about how these cats serve their role in nature. This is where you teach your children about respecting the planet and protecting Mother Earth for beautiful interactions like this. This is the kind of thing that we can all experience and enjoy and learn from. And it's right there. It's right at the tips of our fingertips right now. We already have internet streaming cameras. We've got them all over Big Cat Rescue. We're part of a program with explore.org. They have cameras all around the world. They'll have them in trees, on bird nests, while birds are hatching their eggs. They'll have them underwater where sharks are going by. They'll have them at Big Cat Rescue, where I think there's probably 10 or so here that you can watch any time of day. And they're streaming live all day long. Some of these cameras are actually being controlled, remote control, but that's because they're not 360 cameras. And I think that the 360 version of these cameras is just right around the corner. How much better would it be for you to be able to look completely around, hard enough to do in an environment like this, but you can turn your head around and you can see everything in that environment. That would be absolutely fascinating. Whenever I watch camera traps of cats in the wild, people who track these cats, they know that they have certain paths that they frequent and things that they do in those areas. So there's been some excellent cameras that might be positioned right where a log goes across a stream because they know all the wildlife uses that log to go across the stream. And so you get these beautiful images of these wild animals doing what comes naturally to them. And you experience who they are when they have no idea that you're watching. That's when they are being their truest selves. But the bad side about those kinds of cameras is that you only see what the camera is facing at. It's a flat screen. It's fantastic, but it's a flat screen. And I can't tell you how many times I've watched a cat go running by and I'm like, I wonder why they were doing that. Was somebody chasing them? Were they chasing somebody else? What was going on there? If you can come into that in real time with your headset and you can look around, you can see everything that is happening. You'll know why that cat is running into the scene or running out of the scene. And if there are enough of these cameras in strategic places, you can follow that cat by hopping from camera to camera to camera. And you can tell from the heat sensors, those are already available for these cameras, where the activity is happening. There's also the ability to record these cameras. We do that all the time. So whenever there's something that happens at the sanctuary and we want to go back and see what happened last night that caused the cat to be all skittish today, we can roll back those cameras to when there was activity and then watch it there if we're not seeing it in real time. All of that gives you the opportunity to be on safari anytime you want. And what a great way to be able to be totally immersed in a real world situation where you doing that is actually saving the planet. We've been told for 200 years that zoos are preserving wild animals as sort of a Noah's Ark against extinction. During that period of time, we have lost 95% of the big cats from this planet. That model isn't working, and doing more of it isn't going to work. We have to change the way we are looking at preserving these magnificent animals like tigers and lions and leopards and cougars and panthers and ocelots and jungle cats and margay and Joffrey cats and caracals and all of these magnificent cats. Some of them you've probably never even heard of. There's an argument whether there's 35 or 38 species of cats, but regardless, it's a lot of cats. And a lot of cats you would never, ever see. If you even saw them in a zoo, you wouldn't see who they really are. What you're seeing is just a shadow of who that animal is. An animal who's being held captive against their will in an unnatural environment and languishing for years because people think that that's conservation. It's not conservation. My daughter came to me in the late 90s and she said, if we could just sell these mittens and caps and scarves and potholders that are made out of this scratchy yak wool at the end of our tours. Now keep in mind, we give private tours of the sanctuary and we're in Florida. So sometimes that weather out there is like 90 to 100 degrees. The people are walking around for an hour and a half hearing about the cats. Then they come into the gift shop to see how they can sponsor the cats or support the cats, and we're going to sell them scarves and mittens and hats. But she was adamant that if we would do this, we could save the snow leopard from extinction. And the snow leopard is like the most magical animal on the planet. I know Napoleon Dynamite said it was ligers. He was wrong. It's snow leopards. They're amazing. They are mystical and magical, and every part of the reason why we need to do exactly what I'm about to pitch to you. The idea that my daughter was pitching me was from the Snow Leopard Trust. They had a program called Urbis Enterprises, and what they had done was they had gone to the places where people live near snow leopards. These are mostly yak and sheep herders, and the primary threat to snow leopards, because nobody wants to live in the high altitudes and freezing cold temperatures that snow leopards do, except for these local people. The main threat that they were faced with there is if a snow leopard were to kill one of their livestock, it could devastate their entire family. So the Snow Leopard Trust said, here's what we'll do. We'll offer you 5 times for your products that you make, your hats and your woolen mittens and your pot holders. We'll offer you 5 times what you can make in your local village for those items. But the deal is you have to protect the snow leopard. And if a single snow leopard dies, then the entire village is going to be thrown out of the program. And amazingly, of all of the cats whose numbers have declined over the last 200 years, the snow leopard is actually seeing a resurgence because this works. When you put the money in the hands of the local people who have to live with these animals and make them the people who most want to protect them, then you have a plan that works. So they have worked with these people for many, many years now. Big Cat Rescue has been the second largest retailer of Urbis Enterprise items. Thankfully, we got them to make things like ornaments and cat toys, which were a lot easier to sell in our gift shop than the hats and mittens. But we were able to sell a lot of it being enough to fund these people living out their lives, doing what they've always done in a way where they could make more money than they ever made before, and they were protecting the snow leopards from being killed from retribution hunting issues. And so this is the same kind of thing that I can see for these cameras. Imagine every place in the world that has big cats. So you've got the snow leopards and the Pallas cats in Mongolia and in the Himalayas. You have tigers in Russia and India, and you've got jaguars in Brazil and Belize and all of the South American countries. You've also got cats like jaguarundi and ocelots and margay that are gorgeous cats that most people have never seen. In the US, you have cougars in the Midwest. You have Florida panthers in Florida. You have bobcats all across the nation. In Spain, you have the amazing and highly endangered Spanish lynx. There are all of these exquisite cats all around the world. Sorry, Australia. No native cats there. I don't know what happened there, but have to go after koalas or something there with cameras. Imagine in all of these places, the threat that the cats face is usually from the people who live closest to them because they're fighting for resources. So imagine when you put on your headset, you know you hate it, but it's gotta happen. Whenever you're dealing with any kind of video stream on YouTube, you've got ads and you've got subscription fees. Imagine if the bulk of that money actually were going into those local economies with the same kind of caveat that went into the Snow Leopard Trust enterprise, where everybody becomes a game warden whose mission it is to protect those wild animals, to make sure those cameras everywhere in that cat's area out in the wild is being maintained and being kept clean, because they get dirty. We have to wipe them down all the time. The cats here lick them, they pee on them, they slobber food on them. So there's jobs right there. You've got all of this ad revenue and subscription-based fees coming into those local economies with the same provision that they protect those forests where these animals live. Now, the thing about big cats is they can only live in an environment that is a healthy, natural ecosystem. So you have to have all of the prey animals. You have to have all of the forests that then support those prey animals. You have to have clean water and clean air and all of those kinds of things for a big cat to actually be able to survive. What better thing for all of us on this planet than to have clean water and clean air and forests that were healthy and thriving and providing all of the medicinal plants and everything that a forest provides for us? All of that has to be kept in check by nature, not by humans. When people get involved, we mess things up just terribly. So if we can just put these cameras in strategic places where they are streaming to the internet all the time, and everybody in town is responsible for protecting those cameras and making sure that there are plenty of opportunities for big cats to just be wandering by, doing what they do in the wild, so that everybody around the world can enjoy it, that's what's going to save this planet. That is the kind of forward-thinking opportunity that zoos could latch onto right now, because not everybody can afford a $500 headset. And so for those who can't afford it, this is a perfect opportunity for municipal zoos to offer these kinds of opportunities for free, or you pay your $10 to go to the zoo for the day, and you can go into each of their buildings. They've already got the buildings. They've got all of the infrastructure already. They go in, and the viewer can go to India, and they can experience the smells of Indian curry and hear the sounds of what it's like to be transported out into the wild, and hearing the peafowl calling, that magical sound that they make when they're calling in the wild. And you discover that all of that noise that the prey animals are making is giving you a clue that there's a big cat over there. Also, you've got the heat map, so you can figure it out that way if you don't follow your audio senses. But it's a way of engaging all of our senses while we're fully immersed in that headset. And I just get so excited, I can't stand it, because there are zoos all around the world that can be embracing this technology right now. We can be starting this right now with the technology that we have at our fingertips. These cameras are the ones like we have here at Big Cat Rescue, where you actually have to drive them around so that people can see. But again, there's jobs. And that will only increase the demand for 360 3D. And when I say 3D, if you watch, every week we put out a video of our cats in 180 3D, because that's the only camera that's available to us. And it's a cheap little $200 Evo camera, which I can't get anymore. And I really want that camera because it's like the best camera ever for what we do. But when you put that headset on, that cat is like chomping through bones right in your face. You can almost feel the hot breath of that cat in your face, because it feels like you are right there, and all of everything else in your world is now gone because you are totally immersed in the moment with that animal. So I know that it's just a matter of a very little bit of time before we have that available to us everywhere. And that kind of experience is something that you cannot get seeing an animal languishing in a zoo. And it sends a far better message. I think the message we currently send our children of taking them to a place where we hold magnificent wild animals captive for their amusement, what kind of message is that? That's horrible. That's a horrible thing to teach our children. So we absolutely need to encourage zoos, supply that support system to them to be able to do these kinds of amazing location-based, interactive, immersive experiences. For the next few minutes, I'd like to talk to you about some things that we've already done and some near-term goals. I don't recall for sure. I think it was like 2016 maybe. There was an application that was put out by HP called Arisma, and it was for augmented reality. I thought this thing changes everything. We would go to the Taking Action for Animals conference in Washington, D.C. every other year. And at that event, we were major sponsors. And so what the Arisma app allowed me to do was to take our logo, which we were allowed to put on name badges. We were allowed to put it on the big tote bags that everybody carried all around Washington, D.C. during Lobby Day. And if you pointed your phone, if you had the app and you pointed your phone at the logo, it would launch a video about Big Cat Rescue and why we need a federal bill to ban cub petting and to phase out private ownership. I thought, this is just the cat's pajamas. Oh my gosh, people are going to love this. People didn't get it. They didn't want to put an app on their phone. They didn't want to be bothered with it. If it wasn't instant, it wasn't good enough. and it just failed. And so apparently Arisma was bought by somebody else, or maybe Arisma was bought by HP. I guess that's how it went. So I kept hanging in there, and I got really interested when augmented reality kind of made a rebound. I was at the Synapse Summit in 2019, and I ran into a fellow who was doing that same kind of augmented reality. So I got together with him, and we created 8 posters, each one for 8 different species of cats, the ones people actually know, like lion, tiger, leopard. And these huge posters would take up, great big huge space on the wall, and we put them in the mall. So the mall allowed us to have one of their spots because malls were suffering due to Amazon taking over that whole industry, and they had a lot of empty space, and they don't want it to look like they have empty space. So they gave us an entire place that we could outfit any way we wanted. So I said, I want to have an augmented reality zoo there. Created 8 of these posters, gave huge instructions to people on how to download the VidPic AR app onto their phone, how to point it at the picture, and make each one of those launch a video about that species of cat, a minute-long video. I hired a woman to man the space to help people download the app and point their phone at the wall. And then she also was getting people to put on headsets, and in the headsets they could then see our cats in immersive reality. Once a week we were creating 2 video files for YouTube. One was a regular flat file like we've always done, and we've had over 100 million views or something. And I think we have like over 1 million subscribers. And then over on Facebook, we had like 3.5 million people that followed us there. And so we would post these on mostly YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. And we post one flat file and then one 180 3D video file of our cats, where we mount the camera on the side of the cage, capture the cats eating, playing, doing all kinds of fun stuff. So we do that every week. We put out a new one. And we wanted people to experience this in a headset, because once you've seen it, you can't get enough of it. You just got to have this in your life all the time. And so she was there doing all of that until COVID hit. And when COVID hit, we couldn't do that kind of experience anymore. The malls were all closed down. We had to shut down the sanctuary because we couldn't do private tours where you had 20 people staying together in a little group that were walking around with a guide. All of that had to end. So we were relegated to having to figure out ways to share the cats virtually with people. But fortunately, in 2020, also at the Synapse conference, I was looking for somebody who could create a virtual reality game involving a CGI tiger, and found a great organization. I love Xennial Digital, and by March or so, maybe April, they had come up with this game that launched, I believe we were able to launch it to the public in June for the Oculus Rift, and we did it for free. And so what we wanted people to do was to put on the headset and be transported to a forest, the Ranthambore Forest, where that's in India, where there are tigers living in the wild, and they are approached by a game warden named Jamie. It's actually my husband's voice and my daughter's name. And Jamie tells them, I need your help. One of our tigers is missing. And the game warden gives you all of these clues as to how you would track a tiger in the wild. And so you're searching out all of these clues and you're learning about the tiger along the way. And then they would find that the tiger has been snared by poachers. And so they would see everything that our vets would do in order to get those cats ready to go back to the wild. And then you, the hero of the story, get to actually release that cat back to the wild. That's the kind of thing that I think people would be so passionate about and feel like they really made a difference in the life of that cat. And then they see her running back to the wild and chasing after prey and being everything she was meant to be. Then, at the end, the game warden takes you back to the ranger station, and it's actually set up so that you could contact your member of Congress right then and there and ask them to support the Big Cat Public Safety Act. And so I was so thrilled that this thing launched in June, and I loved being able to talk to the media because there were so many people in the media contacting me after Tiger King had come out 3 months before, and they didn't get it. They didn't care. All they wanted to talk about was the stupid dumpster fire that was Tiger King. And the few people who even mentioned the game said it was a phone app. wasn't a phone app. It was an immersive experience that you had to see in a headset. But they just totally missed it. And so we worked on getting it released for the Oculus Quest, which we finally did. Took a long time because of that whole App Store thing, and you know what I'm talking about. But now that's done, and it's available for the Quest. It's also on Steam for any kind of headset. We worked with Springboard VR, and they've been bought out by somebody else, but they provide these experiences to location-based video arcade centers. And so it's available there. And then we worked with Victory XR to get it available to schools or homeschoolers so that people can access this en masse. And the reason it was so important to do that is because this is the first ever game where you're actually learning about protecting tigers in the wild. And my intention for this was that there be spin-offs, that there be Jaguar Jungle, and that there be all of these different ones for each species of cat. But it cost me $40,000 to create that game. After COVID and Tiger King hit both at the same time in 2020, I can't afford that. So I'm now working with a group that is trying, and they're working with Xennial, the people who created the game, to try and create a phone-based or tablet-based version of that so that it's accessible to more people. And as part of that, they're also trying to raise the funding for it. So good luck to them, because I have no idea how to raise money in that industry. But the main thing is, I don't care about making money from this. It would be great if it supported the cats, because I have to raise between $3.5 and $4 million a year. But if I don't see a dime from it, I'm okay with that. What I really, really want is for people to adopt this technology and run with it. I want them to create these experiences that change the way we think about wildlife and the way we protect wildlife. And my ultimate goal is that there no longer be cats in cages. These cats belong in the wild. It's their birthright, and the only way that we people have any chance of survival on this planet is if we protect those natural spaces that they call home. Thank you so much for being with me today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions in the Q&A session afterwards.